Hi, this is Buck Malick, and we're doing an episode of Western Wisconsin Journal here. Today I'm going to be interviewing Robert W., sometimes called Bob, sometimes called Andy Anderson, who is the past president of the Minnesota MG Group. And that group is behind, and it's Bob's personal commitment, behind the Britfest that will be happening in Hudson, as it has for many years, on Saturday, August 10th, right here in downtown Hudson, where the street will be closed in front of Dick's Bar and Grill. So, if I may call you Bob.
I answer to that.
What times on the 10th should people be there to see these cars?
To see the cars, they'll probably, majority of them will be parked by 9 o'clock. They'll still be around at 1 o'clock, so that would be the best window for the most cars. Some might start trickling out around 1, but our drawing for raffle prizes and car trophies is around 2 o'clock. So that's when cars might start trickling out around that time.
Will food be available?
No food trucks or anything like that, but it's all the restaurants and bars and that in Hudson.
How about drinks? If people get dry, is there anything available there?
Same thing. The event doesn't provide anything, but all the nearby facilities and businesses will be open.
Do I understand right that Dick's Bar is one of your sponsors, or is your primary sponsor?
Dick's Bar is the primary sponsor in Hudson.
And they have adult beverages and non-adult beverages, and
Yes.
so we try to patronize them, no
Yep.
doubt? Yeah. What else is going on in the sponsorship area, Bob?
We also get donated items from some of the national car part companies, and then we use those donated items as a raffle that will be conducted by our charity that we have for this year, which is Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I don't think it's of Hudson. I think it's like Southwest Wisconsin or something like that. So they're the charity we have this year, and we had them last year. And we change those once in a while.
Do you expect them to have a booth or a pop-up tent?
They'll
or
have a booth
table?
to the west of Dick's Bar in one of those alleyways that'll be closed off.
And they'll be selling tickets
Tickets
that people
for
then use
voting
to
on the
vote?
cars and for the raffle items. And the raffle items are all British car theme type of items.
Oh, I see.
You can always use a fleece blanket regardless of the logo that's on it, though.
Speaking of logos, now you call this Britfest, and you and I both have MGs, but there are other car brands or marks invited, right?
The Britfest is primarily for British cars only and British motorcycles. So we primarily, the bulk of the cars will be MGs, Triumphs, Jaguars, Austin Healey's. There'll be, I think, Lotus, Rolls-Royce, Range Rover gets in there. Some of those show up. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a couple other brands I'm probably forgetting at the moment.
And motorcycles, it might be Triumph, Norton,
Triumphs,
maybe?
BSAs. Haven't seen a Royal Enfield show up yet. They're kind of rare.
The hope springs eternal, huh?
Yeah.
So is there a charge for the public to come and look at these cars?
The event is free to show your car, and it's free to the public to view the cars.
I'm supposed to be bringing a trailer and collecting donated non-perishable food that'll be given to the Hudson Food Shelf, right?
Yep. This year, in addition to a charity for fundraising for a charity, I decided we should try and do the food shelf also. So this will be our first year attempting the food drive. We'll see how well that goes.
Yeah, good. Well, I hope it's not larger than one 4x8 trailer by 3 feet deep, or I'll be,
Yeah.
for making multiple trips. So there's that, and people can go to the Big Brothers Big Sisters tent or booth and purchase tickets, and then they use those tickets for what?
Those tickets, there'll be a different colored tickets, one for voting for cars. Each car will have like an ice cream bucket in front of it, and people buy tickets to vote for the car. There's no judges picking the favorite car. It's a public voting popularity type of thing. So whichever ice cream bucket winds up with the most tickets in it is the ones that will win.
I see.
And the ticket sales are done solely by the Big Brothers Big Sisters, and all proceeds go to the Big Brothers Big Sisters. So we've raised anywhere from $600 to $800 or $900 in past years.
Oh, good. Well, let's hope it's equally successful this year.
Yep.
And then the other colored ticket is
For the
drawing.
raffle items, and the raffle items are, of course, they're all automotive. There's insulated lunch carriers with different marquees on it. There's fleece blankets that roll up. Some of these British cars weren't noted for their wonderful heating, so a blanket's always handy in the cooler weather. Then we have, I can't think of what some of the other items are, but they're all automotive and they're themed towards British cars.
So it sounds like you'll have half a dozen, 2 dozen things for this raffle drawing.
It's a dozen so far.
Oh, okay.
I have still more coming.
Yeah. So is the feather flag going to be there? Or should people look for that?
The feather flag should be by the MGs, and an MG banners should be flying in different places. I imagine the Jaguar Club will have their feather flag out, and the Triumph Club usually manages to have their banner hanging too.
Now last year there were more than enough cars to fit parked endwise to the curb in that one block between, well, it's basically between Hudson's middle stoplight and First Street, the Hudson Arch. And are you going to have a place for the overflow of these little British cars this year?
The overflow will go to the parking lot. The registration is in the parking lot across the street from Dick's Bar, so that's to the south. Okay. So that parking lot is used for overflow, which we used a lot of that parking lot last year.
Yeah. And the public will park wherever they can find a place as usual
right.
in downtown Hudson on a Saturday.
Yeah, Walnut Street will be closed off sometime early morning, and then we'll get the barricades up sometime after 7, closing off the streets and the alleys.
The sponsor group is the Minnesota MG Group, of which you're the past president. Have I got
Correct.
that right?
Yep.
And how long have you been associated with this Britfest?
With Britfest, either as the volunteer assistant, or like now I've gotten myself into being the person responsible. That's the trouble with volunteering. Hard to get out of it.
Careful now, we don't want to scare people off. So you kind of took over from Tom and Barb Belongia. Am I remembering that story right? Yeah.
Yep.
Tom's a former deputy sheriff.
Yeah. And we used to hold it up at the grocery store up off of Carmichael. I think it's on the north side of 94.
Oh.
Used to be out there in that parking lot, but when Tom and Barb took it over, we managed to get it downtown to Dick's and close off that street, and we've had it there ever since.
So that's 5 years?
5 years or 7 years, somewhere's in there, yeah.
Range? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. With this Minnesota MG Group, what do you care to tell us about that?
The Minnesota MG Group started around, they were formally organized, I think, in around 87. So they've been around for 30-some years now. There's a board of officers that organize events throughout the year. There's drives, there's picnics, there's events even in the wintertime. We've got approximately, I always try and say around 100 members or 100 memberships, because a membership can be a couple. And a lot of times there are several couples that they each have their own MG, and there are couples that have more than their own each MG. They branch off into, there are couples that have 3 or 4 different types of British cars, and there
Like
are a
the
lot of
Murphys.
women that have their own and fix their own.
Sure, it's not just a men's sport, is it?
No, it isn't.
So Tom and June Murphy have like 5 different little British cars, don't they?
Yeah.
At least. And the Belanges have at least 2 MGs, right?
Yep.
His TD competition model.
And Barb is
and
branched
her-
off into a Jaguar, so we have to count that too.
Oh, all right. So
Oh.
that makes 3 now. Yeah. Yeah. Are cars for sale at this event?
Typically, you will see a few that will have for sale signs. So if you sit in the car and you look really interested, you've got to be careful. Someone might try and sell the car to
Might
you.
come up with a bill of sale.
Yeah.
Seems to me Chuck Ash bought a Austin Healey last year.
Yeah,
On the
I've
day
seen a
after
few
the sale.
negotiations going on between people at the event.
And
Yes.
Chuck's from North Hudson, I think it is here, right here in the community also. Yeah. So this Minnesota MG group has something around 100 members, and it holds its Britfest here and has for the last 7 or so years.
Yep.
And it holds other events. There was a rendezvous over in Eau Claire this early
Yep,
June,
in
right?
June.
Yeah.
And that was, rendezvous was, there used to be Rally in the Valley, but there was another event called Rendezvous where it alternates between Canada and the U.S. each year. And this year it was in the U.S. Next year it'll be in
Kenora.
Kenora, Canada.
Made my reservation today.
And this year, the organizers for Rally in the Valley, Steve and Diane Rent, decided to combine Rally in the Valley into Rendezvous, which brings in cars from Canada, Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakotas, and elsewhere.
Which and so that's the region for Rendezvous. What is the territorial extent of the Minnesota MG group? You live in Stillwater. I live in Wisconsin. We're both in that club. But what are there other states? Are the Dakotas included in the Minnesota MG group?
I think there's a North Dakota MG club, British Iron or something like that. Our members are primarily western Wisconsin and Minnesota. There's other clubs in Wisconsin, but they tend to be more to the east.
Like Green Bay, Milwaukee, Madison.
Yep.
There's a big Chicago club, isn't there?
Right, yeah, they have a big gathering each early spring.
So how can there be this many MG owners? The original MGs stopped being manufactured in the year ours were made, 1980, at the original plant in Abingdon, England. How come there are still the 100 members right here in Minnesota and western Wisconsin?
I think it's the appreciation for some of the old kind of cars. The British cars they're different from other cars. I had a person buy one of mine just because he wanted to learn how to work on something totally different.
For the challenge of it, huh?
There's the challenge, and there's a lot of people get like to drive little sports cars, and they are little.
We tooled around the parking lot earlier with some of the TV staff here, and I think they both noticed how they felt like they were sitting on the ground practically. So 10 miles feels like 50 miles an hour.
And the MGs we have are 2 inches higher off the ground than the older ones.
Great point there. There's a lot of technical stuff to know about MGs, and for me, that's a part of the fascination. Is it for you also? Yeah, is getting to know the history and the technical specifications and the differences.
And a new vocabulary.
Ah, that's right.
The English call everything something different.
So what do they call what we call the hood?
I think that's the bonnet.
And what we call the trunk lid is the boot. Right?
Boot, that's it. Yeah, I didn't know there'd be a test.
I knew you'd be up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So once again, I guess we're talking about Saturday, August 10th.
From 9
o'clock.
to 2.
But anybody who gets there afternoon is probably going to miss quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it starts at 9, but the cars will really start coming into park by 8. So it's
And we encourage people to bring a non-perishable food item for the food
right.
shelf.
They can leave that at the registration tent.
Okay. And to bring a little money so they can buy some tickets and vote for their favorite car.
Get
and
donations
contribute.
going for Big Brothers, Big Sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this thing sanctioned by the city? Now, the city's not a sponsor, but
Not
you
a,
did
not
need
a
to get
sponsor,
a
but
permit,
we
right?
work with the city, the fire department, police department, city council, chamber of commerce, so that everybody's all on the same page in getting things coordinated for it, like barricades and covering
Sleeves for
parking meters.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. There was another story, I suppose.
yeah.
But I won't probe into that. Is there anything else you think we should say about Britfest 2019?
Well, if you're interested in seeing what British cars are like, this is an opportunity to see pretty much every marquee or brand that was around. Most of them aren't made anymore. There are a few that are still made, but they don't look like the old ones. And this is the one event here in Hudson. Like you mentioned, there was this rally in Eau Claire earlier in June, and there are drives coming up. There is another event coming up in early September in Osceola, and that's Wheels and Wings.
It's true,
And
at the airport.
At the airport.
Yeah, we should mention that. I think that's September 10th, if memory serves me right.
Okay. And that's American cars, European cars, trucks, motorcycles. That's a pretty big event, the one that's in Osceola. I don't remember who it is that organizes that one, but it's a much bigger event.
And we'll probably have 20 to 25 MGs at that event if last year's any guide for that.
Right.
Yeah, good. If people have an interest in other things, our website is wide open for people to look at, isn't it? The Minnesota MG Group. Just do a Google search on that, and we have a calendar. If people would like to ride along, a lot of times owners are driving alone in their car, and often they're open to having a passenger.
Yep.
So all good fun.
There are several people that are at Britfest that they especially like the kids to get in the cars.
Ah, yes.
That way it gets them addicted at an earlier age. You know.
Ah, Andy. Well, I think that's it then, viewers. We both hope to see you on the morning of August 10th at Britfest in downtown Hudson, and we'll all have a good time. Thank you for watching.
See you there.
Yeah.